Did you know that home prices here in the Surrey, BC area have increased as much as 30% over the course of the year? Well, you might be thinking, as many people are, well, Glenn, what good is that to me unless I actually sell my home and downsize? Well, that's a common misconception that many people have. You see, because as your home increases in value, so does your home equity. And think of your home equity as your home bank account. That equity sitting in your home bank account is doing nothing if you leave it in there. However, you do potentially have the option of pulling out that equity and using it towards an investment. My recommendation would be to pull that equity out of your home and put it towards a rental property investment. Real estate investing is a fabulous vehicle for growing your wealth over time. And so, generally speaking, what you do is you would pull that equity out of your home, buy a rental property, get a tenant, and have that tenant pay off the vast majority, if not all, of the mortgage on that new property and the expenses. Now, if this is something that's new to you and you'd like to learn more about how you could potentially do this with your current property, stay tuned, because that's what we're going to talk about here in this video. Hey, my name's Glen Hopkins. I'm a local realtor here in South Surrey and White Rock, and I'm here to help you buy and sell your next home with confidence. Now, specifically in this video, we are going to be talking about real estate investments and potential opportunities for you today, given the current market. Author Robert G. Allen, who's known as one of the most influential investment advisors of all time, he said, "How many millionaires do you know who have become wealthy by investing in their savings account? I rest my case." So what Robert was referring to here is the equity in your home. You want to think of that as your home savings account. Now, if you have equity in your home and it's just sitting there doing nothing, well, that's exactly what it's doing. It's doing nothing for you. You're not using it to grow your wealth. Same idea as if you have money in your bank account, it's just sitting there in your savings account, not doing anything, you're not investing it. Well, it's not doing anything for you when you could actually be using that money to invest and grow your wealth. And so when you think of your home, the equity in your home, think of it as your home savings account. That equity in your home, you can potentially take that out to use to buy an investment property. So with that in mind, in this video, we're going to talk about a number of things real estate investment. Okay, we're going to talk about why now is potentially a very good time for you to consider investing. We're going to talk about the unique benefits of real estate investing over and above other types of investment methods. We're also going to talk about the 4 main real estate investment strategies. We're going to dig deep into one of them, namely pre-construction and investing in a pre-construction condo. We'll talk about how you can find ways to tap into that money, specifically how to get the money out of your home and the equity in your home to use it for buying a real estate investment property. We're going to talk about the pros and the cons of buying a pre-construction condo. There are a number of pros involved in it, a lot of great things. There are also a number of potential pitfalls, mistakes that people make, that things that you're definitely going to want to avoid. And so at the end of this video, you're going to have enough information that you can make an educated decision and buy an investment property with confidence. So why is right now a good time to invest in real estate? Well, that's a great question. And the truth of the matter is there's never really not a good time to invest in real estate. Real estate is by far one of the most predictable and safest investments that consistently outperforms almost all others. Let's take a look at the statistics here over the last 12 months in Surrey, BC. Condos, they increased 23.2%. Townhouses increased 29%. While detached homes, they increase 36.4%. That's incredible. Now, if we look over the past 5 years, condos, they're up $300,000. Townhouses are up $746,000, and detached homes are up $870,000. Did you know that over the last 100 years, every decade, every 10 years, housing prices double? So, if you're one of those people thinking or asking, how much higher can real estate prices go? Trust me, they can go higher, and they more than likely will. None of us have a crystal ball, but we do have past historical statistics that indicate where things are going. And we also can look at certain factors that influence the market going into the future, things that we're going to talk about later on in this video. Okay, so let's take a look at the 5 unique benefits of real estate investing. These are benefits that you don't find through other investment vehicles. So number 1 is another party will pay up to 80% of your investment. In other words, you're using other people's money. What do I mean by that? Well, when you get a loan to buy a house, 80% of that is going to come from the bank. That's other people's money. You only have to come up with 20%. Number 2 is long-term market appreciation. Over time, as we've just discussed, the market continues to rise. It's gone up for over 100 years now, and it's more than likely going to continue to go up. That's called long-term market appreciation or passive appreciation. Number 3 is short-term forced appreciation. So there's 2 different types of forced appreciation. If you're buying pre-construction, the builder can force the appreciation by increasing the prices of the units as they release individual phases. The other type of forced appreciation is when you go in there and you do renos on a home. And when you do those renos, it increases the value of the property. And number 4 is monthly cash flow. When you have an investment property, well, you have a tenant in the property, and that tenant is going to pay off your mortgage. If you do it right, they're going to pay off your mortgage and all of your expenses on the property as well. And if there's something left over, that's called monthly cash flow. That's money in your pocket. Number 5, and this is by far the best, is leverage. You're leveraging other people's money. So when you buy a home, you typically put down 20% and you're going to borrow the other 80% from a bank. That's other people's money. And the beauty of it is when the market appreciates, the value of the home appreciates, and you're paid out based on the value of the property, not how much you put down on the property. And number 6, something that I don't think you can find in any other investment vehicle, is tax-free profits. So when your property goes up in value, that equity in the home, you can pull out that equity. The equity is 100% tax-free. So I'm going to discuss each one of these benefits in more detail. But before I do, please do me a favor. If what I'm sharing with you resonates, go ahead and share it with a friend, a family member, or a colleague. Okay. And also be sure to like this video and subscribe. That way you'll be notified every time I do a new video. And it also helps other people who are interested in real estate and real estate investing find these videos. So let's look at the 4 main real estate investment strategies. The first one is the classic buy and hold. That's when you purchase a property and you let it sit and appreciate over time. Again, market appreciation, we've seen it for the last 100 years, and we're more than likely going to see it going into the future. So when you buy and hold, you can see the market appreciate and you get to tap into that equity in the home as it goes up in value. Now, the other thing when you buy and hold, if you've got a tenant in the property, you have an opportunity for cash flow, meaning the tenant's going to pay for your mortgage and your expenses. If they can pay for that and there's still money left over, that money is in your pocket and it's considered cash flow. Number 2 is the classic fix and flip, the one that we see on TV all the time because it's exciting and sexy. That's where you go out there, you find a property and you buy for under market value. It's usually a fixer-upper of sort. You buy it for under market value, you bring some contractors in, you get some renos done, and you bring up you do what's called forced appreciation. You increase the value of the property by doing these renos. Now, it's a lot easier said than done, obviously, and there is work involved. There's more work involved because you either need to go in there and do the renos yourself, or you need to manage contractors to do the renos for you. It's also considered higher risk because it's hard to say whether all the work's going to be done in time, and once it's done, if it's actually going to increase the value of the property. Because remember, property values could decrease. It could be down into a slump when it comes time to resell it. So there is greater risk. Number 3 is the fix and flip to yourself. This is sort of a combination of the first 2 where you go out there, you buy a property, and you buy it with private money or with your own cash. So you buy the property, you go in there, you fix it up, and you force the appreciation. Once that's done, you go to the bank, you have the bank come out, do an appraisal, and the theory is that because you've done the work, it's gone up in value. And so the bank is now going to appraise it at a higher amount. You get a mortgage from the bank, and guess what? That additional equity in the home, you can now pull out. So that's the flip to yourself, if you will. Number 4 is pre-construction. And this is another buy and hold technique. So what you're doing is you're buying it in today's dollar, and then 3 to 5 years later, when the home actually completes, you're getting to move in. The nice thing about this strategy is when you buy the home today, the builder will typically ask for 5 to 10% deposit. And the remainder of the 20% that you need to put down comes through in a way of staggered deposits between now and the completion date. So it's kind of a nice way to, it's a forced savings, if you will, because if you don't have all the cash today, you only have the 5 or 10%, you have time, you have time between now and completion to save up the balance of what you still owe. Now, when buying pre-construction, there is an opportunity for both forced appreciation and passive market appreciation. So looking at the forced appreciation, what happens is when you buy a pre-sale condo, the developer, when they first release the condos, they're going to release it at a certain price, and they're going to go through certain phases. So number one, they're going to release it to friends and family. Then they're going to have a second phase where they jack the price up a bit, and they're going to release it to their VIP members. Then they're going to have a third phase where they jack the price up again a little bit, and they're going to release it to preferred brokers or realtors. And then again, a fourth phase where they release it to the general public. Well, guess what? Every time they release a new phase, generally they're going to increase the price, and that's called forced appreciation. So if you buy early enough, you're going to be able to cash in on that forced appreciation. There is also the opportunity for passive appreciation. So again, you're buying in today's dollar, you're buying today, and 3 to 5 years out from now, you're actually completing. So there's a good opportunity or a good chance that condo and the market is going to go up in value over the course of time between now and the time that you take possession of the home. Now, I want to emphasize that speculation is not a sound real estate investment strategy. It's not a strategy at all. In fact, it's downright dangerous. So make sure you're not speculating. And we're going to talk more about that and the dangers of it later on in this video. Now, there are other real estate investment strategies out there. You can buy an Airbnb, you can do vacation rentals, you can buy REITs, and so on and so forth. There's lots of things out there. But those are the 4 main real estate investment strategies that I just covered. And in this video, we're going to deep dive further into the strategy of buying pre-construction. Okay, so before we look at investing in a pre-construction condo as an investment strategy, let's go over what the requirements are in order to get yourself set up to do that. And also we'll look at an example. All right. So first and foremost, when you buy an investment property, you're typically going to need 20% down. So that 20% down usually comes from cash on hand. So you have to have that cash, or you need to find a way to beg, borrow, and steal to get that. Okay. So, there's private lending options as well. And there's different strategies. We're not going to get into it in this video, but generally speaking, just know that you need to have that 20% cash on hand for your down payment. Now, with pre-construction condo, you don't need it all up front, and I'll explain that in a minute. But just keep that number in mind, 20% down payment. Now, the remainder of it, the 80% remainder is going to come by way of a home equity line of credit or a second mortgage on your current home. Now, you do need to qualify to do this, but like we said earlier in the video at the very beginning, a lot of people, specifically right now, the way the market's going, their homes have appreciated tremendously. So they've built up a lot of equity in their homes. And that's probably, if you're watching this, that's probably your situation as well. Chances are you've built up a lot of new equity in your home that's just sitting there. So you're going to want to go to the bank and see if you can get refinanced for a home equity loan. You're going to need to speak with the lender or the bank to do that. Like I said, they're going to loan you up to 80% loan to value on your home. You're also going to need to get an appraisal. So this is one of the expenses that you will incur when you get that second loan from the bank and you pull out that home equity. The bank's going to first go to your house. They're going to do an appraisal on your home, and that's probably going to cost you a couple of $100s. Okay, so nothing significant, but that is something you need to be prepared for. The lender is also going to make sure that you have a good credit history. That's really important. So don't go out and buy a new car or increase your line of credit or your if you have a line of credit right now. Don't increase your credit card limits. Don't buy anything extravagant right now because they're going to do a credit check on you and they want to make sure that your credit history and that you're paying back all your debt in time. Obviously. Number 4, they're going to want to make sure that you can demonstrate sufficient rental income. So if you're buying a rental property, they want to know what the rents are currently going for. So it's a bit different when we're looking at pre-construction because we're looking into the future, but we can usually figure that out. Speak with your realtor. we can help you project what the future rents will be, because that's something your bank's going to want to know, because those future rents are going to pay down the bulk of your mortgage, if not all of it. Okay. Having said that, the bank is also going to want to make sure that you can show enough non-rental income available to personally meet the obligations of the mortgage, because if for whatever reason you lose that tenant, or it remains vacant for a period of time, they want to make sure that you can pay down your mortgage. Okay, so let's take a look at an example. So let's just say you have a home and your current home is worth $1 million. If you live in South Surrey and White Rock and you have a detached home, it's probably worth quite a bit more than that. If you live in a townhouse, there's a very good chance it's worth that. But in any case, for easy round numbers, let's use the number of $1 million. So your home value is $1 million. You times that by 80%. It's $800,000 minus your outstanding balance on your mortgage, whatever you still owe on your mortgage. So in this example, we're going to say you owe $400,000 on your mortgage still. Okay. So it's simple math. You take the 80% loan to value of the home, you subtract what you owe on the mortgage, and you end up with $400,000. So that $400,000 is what you can potentially pull out of your home. That's the equity that you have in your home that you can get a second mortgage on, okay? And it's usually done in the form of what's called a HELOC, or a home equity line of credit. Now, here's the really cool thing about this. That $400,000, or whatever the number works out to be for you, that line of credit, the money you pull out in equity, is 100% tax-free money. Are you kidding me? Like, where else can you get tax-free money? It's incredible. So you can use that money, like I said earlier, for anything you want. You can go to Vegas, you can go on vacation, you can travel the world. I don't recommend you do any of those things. I recommend you take that money and invest it in real estate, because that's how we're going to build our wealth. And of course, that is what this video is all about. So how do you make your money? Well, at the time of this recording, the median price of a one-bedroom condo here in Surrey, it's approximately $400,000. Okay. So you're going to put 20% down. That's $100,000. And you have a 10% deposit. That's $40,000. Now, again, 10% down. Why 10% and not 20%, Glenn? Well, there's a difference between the down payment and the deposit. Okay. The down payment is the total amount that you need to come up with on the purchase price of the home. So 20% of the purchase price of the home. The deposit forms part of the down payment, but when you're buying pre-construction, you don't need to come up with a full 20% right away. You typically only need to come up with 5 to 10% up front when you sign the contract. And then you have a period of 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 years, depending on how long the completion is going to take to build the building, to come up with the remainder of your 20%. All right. Now, around here, it's usually going to be 2, maybe 3 years to complete a townhouse or a condo, because they're not all that big, unless you go down maybe into the city center where they're building some of the big high rises. Okay, so let's take a quick look at an example of how you might see your condo. If you buy a pre-construction condo today, over the course of a year or even 3 years, how much you might see it appreciate passively. So again, we're going to look at an example of $400,000. You buy a $400,000 condo, you're going to need 20% down. That's $100,000 down. That $100,000 you have to pay out between now, the time of purchase, to the time of completion. So it's going to be paid by way of staggered deposits. Typically, you're going to put about 10% down on day one, and then you're going to have a couple more staggered deposits and pay the final balance at completion. Okay. But what we want to look at here is the potential for passive appreciation. I really want to highlight its potential, and this is speculation. Okay, so take this with a grain of salt, because I would not factor in speculation in your calculations when looking at an investment. Okay, the speculation is just sort of cream on the top. If it works out to your benefit, then awesome. And so for the purpose of this example, we're going to look at a very conservative market appreciation of 5% year over year, and around here that is very conservative. Okay, so let's say you buy your condo for $400,000, you put down the $100,000, and then you get a 5% increase. In the first year, that 5% market appreciation equals $20,000. That's $20,000 in new equity that you now own for doing nothing. In the second year, you add another 5% to that. So it compounds. Now you have another $21,000. And in the third year, another 5%. Now you have another $22,050. So for a total of over the course of 3 years, so in this example, we're saying that from the time of purchase to the time of completion is 3 years. All right. So we're watching the property appreciate 5% each year, year over year. So over the course of 3 years at a 5% increase, you're looking at potential of approximately $63,000 in equity added to the value of your property. You've done nothing. So that's pretty cool. Now, again, that's speculation. I can't guarantee that's going to happen. It's happened for many. And it's, obviously, if you bought last year into this year, you've seen an increase of close to 30%, not 5%. So it can go either way, though, folks. So please hear me clearly. But let's take it a step further, because this is kind of fun, right? We looked at the passive appreciation. Now we're going to look at forced appreciation. Forced appreciation in this situation, when you're buying pre-construction, is something that the builder can do and often does do. So when a builder releases their condos for sale, they release it in different phases. And each phase, typically, they're going to increase the price. The first phase, they're going to release it to their friends and family. Then they're going to release it to their VIP members. Then maybe some special brokerages that they have deals with that they're working with, and then the general public. And then on top of that, they're not going to release all of the units at once. They release them in phases as well. And so again, each increment, each time they release a new phase, generally speaking, you can expect an increase of approximately $15,000. So, as an example, let's just say there's 3 phases that they go through, because you maybe buy, through a realtor that has a relationship with the builder. You're not friends and family, but you're the next 2 or 3 levels up of releases. So, you get a good deal, and you still have 3 phases to go through. So let's say they're $15,000 per phase. That's another $45,000. Those phases are typically going to happen in the first, in that first year. So we've already said, okay, we made $20,000 in the first year on 5% passive appreciation. And now you add another $45,000 in forced appreciation. You're looking at potentially $65,000 of increased equity in your first year. That's crazy, all right? But it does happen, and it's happening all the time. Again, please hear me very clearly. This is speculation. These numbers that I'm sharing with you right now, pure speculation. I don't have a crystal ball. Nobody does. If they tell you they do, please run the other way. Okay. All we can do is look at the history of where things have come from and how the prices have continued to rise and where they're leading to based on various factors. Okay, and we can get into some of those later. But if you're looking pretty conservative, that's pretty conservative. You can expect to see some sort of an increase. I would expect, at least for myself, to see some sort of an increase from the time of purchase to the time of completion before I've even paid out my full 20%. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at some of the factors that would encourage appreciation of the market. All right, so you can do this in any market, in any city, in any area. Right now, for the purpose of this video, we're going to talk about Surrey, BC, because that's where we are. All right, so go to the city of Surrey, and they said that between 2010 and 2020, they had a population increase of 90,000 people. 90,000 people. Now, over the next 31 years, it's predicted that it's going to grow by an additional 300,000 people. 300,000 people. So, quick question here, folks. Do you think that the city of Surrey has added 90,000 homes between 2010 and 2020? I don't think so. And, with the government wanting to ramp up immigration since COVID, do you think that construction can keep up with this demand? This is a big question. Personally, I don't think so. And for this reason, basic supply and demand tells us that the market is going to continue to go up. Okay, so let's have a look at the pros and cons of buying pre-construction. We'll start off with the 7 pros of buying pre-construction. Number 1 is market appreciation. Typically, when you buy in today's dollar, by the time you complete 3 to 5 years later, the condo is going to be worth more money. That's complete passive market appreciation. Don't bet on this. It doesn't happen every time, but Typically speaking, when you look over the course of history and we look at projections of what's happening in the market, chances are it will have gone up some. Number 2 is builder forced appreciation. Again, when the builder releases the condo to the marketplace, they release it in phases to different parts of the population. So they'll start off with friends and family, VIP members, realtors and brokerages, and then to the general public. They'll also release it in phases. In other words, they'll release certain blocks or units at a time. Every time they do that, it forces the appreciation because they, in fact, typically jack the sales price with each phase. Number 4, the tenant pays down most, if not all of your expenses, including your mortgage payment, utilities, strata fee, and so on and so forth. Number 5, it's brand new. When you move into it, it's exactly like you want it. You have an opportunity when you sign the contract to select what kind of customization features you want. You can customize the colors, oftentimes the flooring. And when you move into it, it's brand new. So there's no renos that need to be done. Not to mention, you have a 2, 5, and 10-year warranty. Number 6 is the staggered deposit structure. So when you buy pre-construction, typically you put down 5% at the time of signing, and then the remaining 15% is staggered between the time of signing and the time of completion. So this is a benefit to many because it gives you that period of time to save the money. So it's a forced savings plan, if you will, between the time of signing the contract, buying the property, and actually taking completion. And number 7 is the built-in safety net of an assignment clause. So when you sign the contract, you want to make sure that you read through it and make sure that there is an option for you to assign the contract to another party before completion. And all that means is that it gives you the option or the ability to sell the contract to somebody else before completion. So why would you want that? Well, let's face it, sometimes things happen. You might lose your job, or perhaps the market might dip and the property no longer appraises and you can't get the mortgage that you need on it. So if something like that happens, you want to have the option to assign the contract or sell it to somebody else. So those are the 7 benefits of purchasing pre-construction. Okay, so next let's take a look at some of the cons associated with buying a pre-construction condo. Now, before we do that, if this video is resonating with you at all, please do me a favor, share it with a friend, a family, a colleague. Hit the like button, subscribe, you know the drill. It just helps get the video out to more people. It helps build the channel, and it helps other people just like you who are interested in real estate investment. Okay, so I'm going to share with you 9 potential mistakes, common pitfalls that people make when buying pre-construction, and how you can avoid some of them. So number 1 is buying on speculation with the intent of assigning the contract over to someone else before the unit actually completes. This is something that I do not recommend. It is not a sound real estate investment strategy. Nobody knows what the future holds. We don't hold a crystal ball. We have indicators for sure, but we never really know. And so if you buy with the intent of selling or flipping it before you actually take possession, you're putting yourself at risk. Why? Well, let's face it, the market could drop. Yes, the market's always going up and down like a yo-yo on an escalator. It's always going up. But what happens if the condo completes at a down cycle? Well, you could find yourself in trouble. You might not be able to get the property appraised by the bank and get the mortgage you need. And guess what, folks? When you actually sign that contract, you're on the hook. You need to come up with that money. So if the bank's not able to lend you the money because the market's dropped and the property doesn't assess for the amount that you need, you could be in some serious trouble. Or perhaps, what if, God forbid, you lose your job and you can't qualify for a mortgage? These are real things that do happen, and so you need to be aware of that risk and assess that risk before you go into it if this is a potential strategy that you might want to be using. Again, I don't consider it a strategy. So how can you potentially avoid that? Well, first of all, don't do it at all. Number 2, you could have a spouse or some other co-signer on the contract. This can help you get the mortgage in the future when you need it. Also, the truth is, if an A lender, one of the 5 major banks can't give you a mortgage or won't give you a mortgage, you can also go to a B lender or private lending. You're going to pay more money. You're going to pay a higher interest rate, but that could potentially be an option for you. But bear in mind, most builders really don't want you to sign the contract. It's not in their best interest. If just before completion, all of a sudden 80% of their buyers try to assign their contracts and resell them, that doesn't look very good for the builder, and it becomes a bit of a hairy mess for them, to say the least. So with that in mind, most builders will have certain clauses in their contract. So you want to make real sure that you read the contract and understand very well what the assignment clause state. Number one, are you allowed to assign? And number two, if you are allowed to sign, what are the restrictions? So oftentimes, one of the restrictions will be, well, if you assign it, the builder is going to take a percentage of the lift, the amount of money that you've made on the deal. If in fact you have made money on it, they will take a percentage of that, or they will take a percentage of the original purchase price. Another thing that's very common among builders is advertising. They will not allow you to advertise your unit for sale in an assignment situation, because they want to make sure that their units are sold first. So oftentimes they'll have a stipulation in there that they have to have, say, 80% of their own units sold before you can advertise yours for sale. They may also say that you're not allowed to advertise it on MLS. So you're stuck in a position where you have to advertise it privately, which can be much more challenging. Number two is forgetting to factor in the taxes. Yes, when you buy new, you have to pay GST. Don't forget, that's 5% that you're going to have to pay. Now, in some situations and circumstances, you can get a tax rebate. I'm not going to try and pretend to advise you on that, because GST and tax law is very hairy. So I highly recommend that you speak with a tax lawyer or tax expert before getting yourself into a situation. And keep in mind that the CRA does not really like flippers. So if it appears as though you're flipping for profit, that becomes a business, and CRA will indeed tax you for that. So you want to be aware that that could potentially happen, that you'll be taxed on those profits. Number three is not being prepared for development charges. When a builder completes, they often have additional development charges that the city puts on them. These are by way of taxes. And those taxes, those charges, are typically passed on to you, the buyer of the pre-construction condo. So knowing that, you want to make sure that you read through the contract very carefully and see what those development charges are, and if they are in fact capped. If they're not capped, you want to make sure that they're capped. Otherwise, they could charge you, an ungodly amount of money. Number four is making the mistake of not speaking to your lender in advance. You want to plan this out, folks. So before you go in and buy an investment property, you want to speak with your mortgage broker and make sure that you're in a good position come the time of completion, that you can actually get the loan necessary for your new property. Now, obviously, 2-3 years down the road, a mortgage broker or a bank, they're not able to give you a pre-approval yet because it's just too far in advance. However, taking the time to sit down and go through your finances and project where you're going to be is a very good idea. The fifth common mistake people make when buying pre-construction is not hiring a pre-construction real estate lawyer. This is really important because you want to have an expert reading over your disclosure statement. The builder is going to provide you with a disclosure statement. It can be up to 300 pages long. There is a lot of legalese there, and it's really important that you understand what's in that disclosure statement. It's going to spell out all of your rights and responsibilities as well as the builder's rights and responsibilities. It'll talk about your assignment clause and what they are. It'll talk about completion date and what happens if they don't meet their expected completion date, and a whole lot more. And that's why you have what's called the 7-day rescission period. So when you sign the contract, you're given 7 days to review this document, make sure it's as you want it to be, and if it's not, make the necessary changes or back out. So you have 7 days to do that. That's why they give you this time. So make sure you have a lawyer who specializes in this area to do that for you. The sixth mistake that people make is expecting the completed condo to look exactly like it did in the model home through the marketing plan. It's almost never going to be exactly the same. Over time, as the builder's building, things change. And so the room sizes and dimensions may change slightly. The fixtures may change. There's a number of changes that may happen. So do not expect that what you see in the marketing materials or in the show home is exactly what you're going to see in the finished product. Number 7, something we already alluded to, is expecting the unit to be ready on the scheduled completion date. Folks, this is something that rarely happens. There's just so many different factors, things that come up that push out the completion date. So be well aware of that and have contingencies in place for yourself. Number 8 is a big mistake that's really important that is also very avoidable, and that is making sure that you purchase from a reputable builder. You do not want to purchase from somebody who does not have a history of success. You want to make sure that the builder you're purchasing from has a proven track record, making sure that they build quality builds and that they come ready on schedule time. And number 9 is not using a realtor. It costs you absolutely nothing to have a realtor like myself on your side and in your corner when buying a pre-construction unit. And it's really key to understand that when you walk into a show home, the people behind the desk, they work for the builder. They're on the side of the builder. They're not there to represent you. They're there to represent the builder and get what's in the builder's best interest. So again, it makes sense to have somebody on your side and in your corner looking out for your best interest, especially when it's free. So have I scared you yet? Well, I hope not. That's not my intention. My intention is to help you buy and sell with confidence. And to do that, I want to shine the light on both the pros and the cons of whatever it is you might be considering purchasing. And when you know the pros and cons, you can make an educated and empowered decision. Okay, so if you've made it this far through the training, chances are you're asking, should I do it? Should I buy a real estate investment property? And ultimately, that's going to be up to you. You want to know, are you ready, willing, and able to do it? So are you ready? Have you done enough training? What I suggest you do is go back through this video in its entirety and make sure that you understand the principles and concepts of real estate investment. If you have questions, of course, reach out to me. I'm happy to chat about it. I know I brushed over a lot of it very quickly. So if you have questions, let me know. And then are you willing and able? Namely, are you able? So it's really important. This is going to be one of your first steps, is to contact your bank or mortgage broker to find out how much equity you have in your home and if you're able to tap into it to use for a real estate investment. And finally, the big question that probably everyone has is, Glenn, are you personally investing in real estate? And the answer to that is a 100% absolute yes. This year, my goal is to buy a real estate investment property. To me, it makes no sense to leave that equity in my home doing nothing for me. You may as well make your money work for you. So that is my intent. If you're thinking about doing it, if you want to talk more, again, please give me a call. I'm happy to chat with you. We can sit down, create a plan, look at the different strategies, and pick one that works best for you to help ensure your success.